and namaskar, and welcome to the new episode of Africa Talks. Today we'll be talking about COVID-19 and the impact on the young population in Africa, particularly the challenges and opportunities for youth in Africa in the context of COVID-19. And today with me there are four wonderful speakers from different parts of the world who will be sharing their insights about today's theme. They all have been working on youth-related issues for several years, and I look forward to an exciting discussion today. First of all, I would like to welcome Mr. Cedric Nwafor. He is founder of Roots Africa and is currently based in Washington, D.C. Mr. Nwafor, welcome to Africa Talks.
Thank you.
Our second panelist today is Ms. Ruth Asimwe, Head of Secretariat, East African Youth Leadership Development Program, and she is joining us from Uganda. Ms. Ruth, thank you so much for joining us today and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
Our third panelist today is Ms. Hanan Alenagdi. She is a PhD scholar. She is doing a PhD in chemistry and she's originally from Egypt. Hanan, thank you so much for coming and you're welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm nice to be with you guys.
And we have our friend, Mr. Eziogo Namdi, who is the co-founder of Exilient Africa. Mr. Namdi, once again, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Welcome all.
Friends, it is estimated that by 2030, 42% of Africa's population would be in the age group of 15 to 24. That is the young population. And 60% of population would be below 25 years. That makes Africa the youngest continent. But do you think this is this a demographic dividend for Africa, or is this a demographic burden for Africa? What do you have to say about that? So your introductory remarks about today's theme, sir. We can start with Mr. Nwafor first.
Hi, everyone. I think this is a very, very relevant topic as we try to tie our youth to COVID-19 and how we can, I would say, in response to your question, read these demographic dividends. I do believe that we are in a very, very interesting time right now. We have the majority of the population as youth and women, but we are serving as a minority within the African continent. And looking at it from that perspective, I think there are huge opportunities to be gained once we come out of COVID-19. And those that can position themselves well enough, countries and individuals within the continent that can position themselves well enough would come out of this crisis well off than they were when the crisis started. So just looking at the entire continent and looking at how we could move forward from this, I would always come from the perspective of agriculture, because I always think like once people can guarantee their bare necessities, which one of those is food, which is key, they can take care of other problems in their society. So yes, there is a demographic dividend that could be reaped out of this chaos that we see right now. COVID-19.
You think it's a demographic dividend? Ms. Ruth Asimwe, what do you have to say? Your introductory remarks about today's theme.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Ruth Asimwe. I head the Youth Secretariat, which is an East Africa Youth Development Program here in Eastern Africa, taking countries of Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, and South Sudan. So on this theme, it's a theme that excites me, first of all, as a young person. Definitely the democratic dividend is an opportunity for us to take advantage of. And when you look at the statistics, really, you see that even by 2040, 7 out of 9 young people in the entire world will be coming from developing countries. 1 out of 4 of those will actually be African. And what that means for us is we can take advantage of the energies that youth have. I know that if you're talking about adaptability, if you're talking about flexibility to technology, all that is characteristic of young people. And it's an opportunity for us to take advantage of their flexibility, technology, to their adaptability, to their energies and innovations to do something better for us as a nation.
Great.
And the country and continent as well.
Going to Hannah now. Hannah, what you have to say? Your views.
Actually, so the topic about the youth in Africa, especially I talk about Egypt. The problem now in Africa, most of youth is lazy, and young girls is a little bit tough to go through the job. So I think nowadays most of the girl is starting to think about entrepreneur and start a small business in houses or some like small shop. So I think after COVID-19, the challenge is how these ladies that already start this kind of business, how to carry out the business after COVID-19. Also, we need to talk as our friend from Uganda mentioned about the technology. Now we must be think about the business for especially for ladies for the technology because this is good business nowadays and it's easy to have it even inside the door, not outside. So it is a very big issue and challenging. So let's see what will be happening after COVID-19.
Okay. Going to Mr. Namdi now. Mr. Namdi, you have been interacting with youth through your Excellent Africa platform also. What do you have to say about the huge young population of Africa? Is this a demographic dividend for Africa or a demographic burden?
I think it's a demographic dividend. Thank you very much, all, for having us today. I think it's a demographic dividend because if I can recall, 2 years back, also the African Union had a thematic for harnessing the demographic dividend through investment in youth. So I think youthful population is very important. That's the energy. That's what runs any system. The only thing that we've had as a bane to the complete harnessing of this potential is that the leadership of Africa has not really prioritized investment in youth. An investment in youth, not necessarily giving people peanuts and handouts. It should be capacity building and skill development. So in this 21st century, this digital age, a lot of things are digitalized. I think the African youth and with this outbreak currently where everyone is now observing a different social norm. So I think it's an opportunity for the African youth to look inward, become more innovative. With the digital platforms that we have, we could do a lot of things and, champion startups in Africa also.
Okay, so you think it's a very good opportunity for African youths to be innovative and create
Indeed.
their own destinies.
Indeed.
But do you think, ladies and gentlemen, that youth in Africa is educated, healthy, productive? Are they getting enough employment opportunities? Because according to one study, every year 10 to 12 million youth comes out of colleges with a degree in hand, but they don't get a skilled job, an employment opportunity. So do you think the current political leadership is creating that kind of opportunity that youth can thrive in the coming years or not? Maybe we can start with Mr. Nafor. Mr. Nafor, we can't hear you.
Okay,
Yes.
this always happens. But looking at just the entire the continent, of course, that is not happening. Our systems are not set for that. Our educational systems are not set for that. Our mindset are not set for us to gain employment after education. And that's why the concept of entrepreneurship and innovation is critical. But we cannot sit and just complain about the government. It's time for us to rise up and think about this idea of innovation starts with I. I know we've grown up with this mindset of, oh, this is not going to, like whenever we're growing up, we think we've grown a very realistic mindset where everything has to be possible before we do it. We are not dreaming beyond like the possibilities and thinking beyond the realm of possibilities and seeing what can be done despite the current constraint. I'm not giving a pass to my government. I'm not giving any leeway to them. I think they are not functioning to the best interest of us as young people in Africa. But I'm saying to us, despite all of this, what can we do? What are some of the initiatives that we can take forward to generate income for ourselves? The world is connected now more than ever. I like what my brother Nyamdi is doing, thinking about excellence. Like when I grew up in Cameroon, I was okay being in the middle class. Like, okay, if I don't take first, it's okay. If I don't take last, it's fine. But how are you, if we do not start exceeding and trying to be at the top, at the 1%, we cannot compete with the world. With this global economy, there is a possibility to find opportunities on LinkedIn, possibilities to find opportunities online. There's skills that you can develop, especially now. We have so many trainings online that you can take advantage of, and take advantage of this leveling field that COVID-19 is proposing, because COVID-19 attacks the poor, attacks the powerful, attacks the rich. And if we can take advantage of this current platform to position ourselves well, we will be okay. We will not thrive because there are structural challenges, but we will be okay after this. So that's all what I have to say when it comes
so I see a lot of optimism there in what Mr. Nafor is saying. Ms. Ruth, the same way, you work a lot with the young population. Tell us something about the organization you work with and how you are, what kind of benefits you offer to youth in terms of their, career, in terms of new opportunities for them in life. Ms. Ruth, the same way.
Okay, so thank you very much. At the East Africa Youth Leadership Program, ULEAD, we work towards achieving 3 main ambitions. So our first ambition really is on amplifying youth voices in key regional and political governance processes across the East African community. And then our second ambition is around building the capacity and increasing the numbers of young people that are in political decision-making, processes, but also in other leadership positions. And then our third ambition is on deepening business and political cooperation amongst leaders across the East African community. So some of the interventions that we really do is, the first arm is on politics, but the other is on business. And I think I'll talk more on around the business aspect, because that's where this question is related. And then I'll relate that again to the topic that we are talking about right now. As you rightly said on the issue of unemployment, and if you look at the UN DESA report that was out, I think around March, it says that with COVID-19, we are likely 3 times going to experience unemployment or unemployment for young people aged between 15 to 24. And I think for me, that paints a very sad story. That means that we need to look out for what else we can be able to do. So some of the things that we should be looking out is skilling for young people, because the kind of system that we are on right now, our education system is more on soft skills. And when you look at the curriculum, it doesn't talk more about the skilling, which we really need to invest in. And there are many opportunities that are now on digital opportunities that we can be able to take advantage of. And most of the young people, as we are talking right now, are taking advantage of that. We have young people leading on COVID-19 conversations in Uganda, the same happening in South Sudan, Rwanda, and Tanzania. We are currently seeing a lot of trend in terms of digital reporting for young people. In Uganda, for example, I have seen some young people doing budget tracking using online applications, and those are some of the innovations that we can be able to promote. But then also we can do online learning. We look at what is it right now that the young people need, and as you lead, those are some of the opportunities together with the young people that we work with, that we are able to provide skilling courses online. And then when we are talking about that translating to the local person, because when we talk of digital skilling, we have to remember that there is a young person out there who does not have access to internet. This young person does not have access to the phone that can be able to do the digital that we are now talking about. How then are we able to reach out to that young person? And that's why there needs to be a proper match to that young person through maybe radio or television, so that at least we are able to bridge that inequality gap that digital skilling brings out.
Yes, I think skilling up is going to be the new mantra of development in Africa in the coming years. And that's where I think your organization is playing a very important role. Coming to you, Hanan, you are pursuing your education. You're currently pursuing your PhD in chemistry. What kind of opportunities you see in the coming years for you as a young researcher?
That is really good. And this question is actually is my maybe I'm lucky a little bit because my career is chemistry and nowadays and especially in biotechnology chemistry and nowadays is a high topic over the world. So for me, my challenging is a little bit easy because once I go home, I have this kind of a lot of challenging, a lot of institutions. Now, actually, to be honest, in Egypt, they start make a specific research unit to absorb all the active and the high educated people to join. That is really, for my case, is a little bit good. But for other situations, like our friends talk about the youth and the courses and qualification. In other side, for example, my sister is lost her job and everything because after COVID-19, everybody staying home, nobody work. So time to think in opposite way for her. Why? How can we improve herself during this COVID-19? How can I go out after this time of lockdown to be more attractive to the market? That kind of thinking, that's what we need to think about nowadays. And as they mentioned, as I see here with my friends, we all have international students here, and most of them is working as an international course, and even some online courses is free. So I think if African students and all of them African by the way, if African students start thinking in that way, how they can improve yourself as much as what for facilities that are available for everybody, I think it will be make difference. What we talk about the initiative and everything, it starts be from our side. We might be take this lockdown as a COVID-19 is a negative part, but we can be as a positive if we think in a positive way. So no, the environment that I'm around here is a little bit positive because most of them are thinking what we're going to do, how can we improve myself when I go to the market after COVID-19, I'll be ready. So no, I think now the youth in Africa, to be honest, is this new generation and thinking in a positive way to create a good environment for themselves. I'm not talking about the government. I'm talking about the people that I talk
Great.
and I
So
deal with them.
youth in Africa is thinking in a very positive way.
Yeah,
Uh,
that is
uh, uh, what I have heard from three of our panelists today is that a lot of African youth is not only optimistic, they're also getting more and more innovative. They're looking for more opportunities for entrepreneurship. So, Mr. Namdi, can you give us some insights about the emerging startup industry in Africa? How exciting is the startup industry currently in Africa? What kind of money that is coming in? Do you think youth is really, really excited about going into startups in Africa? And after that, we'll come to Mr. Nafor because you work with youth and in the agrarian sector also. So after Mr. Namdi, we'll come to you for your take on it. Mr. Namdi.
Exactly. I think for so many reasons, there's been a lack of interest in people maintaining startups. Because when we have startups such as this in Africa, a lot of people are innovative. A lot of people do a lot of things. They think, 10 times ahead. But the challenge has always been institutional. It's always been systematic, and the lack of the political will to actually invest in such development. So what happens now is, which is why to some extent we are a bit grateful that the COVID-19 came at this time also and at this age, because it has offered us an opportunity to not shy away from what we are supposed to do, or look at the challenges in terms of finance and all, and connectivity or network. But it has offered us something right now. And if you told me I'll be indoors for 3 months now, I wouldn't have agreed previously. If you told me I'll be connecting today with Cedric on this platform, Hanan and Miss Ruth, I wouldn't agree. So I think startups are the only thing. There's going to be a lot of job loss. Even recently, Uber even sacked a lot of high employees online. So everything is happening virtually right now. And it's also that opportunity that I'm seeing for the African startups. From our own end as Excellent Africa, even while we were working on various other organizations like the Africa Asia Youth Foundation, which we were actively as founding members on. The idea was to have a youth to business network whereby we connect African youths and Asian youths who are actually having startups. Like India has done greatly well in the Startup India project, although to some extent more still has to be done. But the idea in the end of it is to connect people from one end of the world to the other end of the world. You know, once we have that bridge, that connection, I think everything becomes smooth. We don't necessarily need to look at government or certain individuals in the society that are irresponsible or don't want to accept the fact that they should invest in young minds. So I think connecting young ones has been the only way we've been able to do this. And COVID-19 has offered us a great opportunity that to some extent, if not for the life lost, we would have seen it as a savior, you know. So
Okay, great. Coming to Mr. Nafor, you have a very exciting project. You know, you connect students and youngsters and people from US who are working in the agrarian sector to farmers in Africa.
Yeah.
So how exactly is that beneficial to youth in Africa?
Yeah, so I know one of the things that we'll talk a little bit about if we have time will be Pan-Africanism. And I am really in the middle when it comes to Pan-Africanism. I do think we need allies in Pan-Africanism. It's not just an African-only solution. So Roots Africa, basically, our concept is very simple. Taking on that concept of connecting. We connect students, we connect agricultural experts here in the US to farming communities so that we can identify solutions to agricultural challenges together. We do this by video conferencing in the first stage, identify challenges that farmers are facing, develop solutions to those challenges, fundraise, travel over to the country, implement those solutions. We are working in Liberia, we're working in Uganda, and over time, we've really evolved what we do here for the organization. Right now, in the past, we will start a student club here, then start another one in Africa, but we've changed our model. We think that we believe that Africans are experts in their communities and they know what the challenges are best. So we start our student clubs in Africa first. Like right now, we have 2 student clubs in Uganda, and those student clubs develop projects for their communities. And these projects, from us coming into the US, we're just looking at this as supporters. We provide resources, we provide some level of expertise. In Liberia, for example, we have this very, very innovative group of students who have started a compost project. And this compost project, they develop compost, they sell it to their school, and they sell it to the local community. And compost is manure, organic manure. They sell it to their school, they sell it to their community. They take the funds from that project and sponsor a high school outreach programs to engage high school students in agriculture. That's just an example of just an innovative group of students trying to bring change in their community. So when it comes to like technologies and startups and ideas like that, one thing that our governments and our local community leaders could really take a look at is you have these young people that are really good with agriculture. And when you look at the African continent, you could almost take one extension agent, that means people that go into the community to teach farmers. You could take one extension agent and divide them to 2,000 farmers. And that is not just sustainable, but you have young people that have learned innovative agricultural techniques, that know innovative agricultural techniques. Why not make these young people into extension agents? Why not make them into agricultural change makers in their communities? And if we do that, then we decimate information in a very radical way, because young people can really spread the news through technology, word of mouth, and all of these things. So moving on from there, another thing that we need to be thinking of is what can youth do right now to make sure that people stay alive after COVID-19, and how are they using technology? You know, when COVID-19 hit, as an organization, everything came to a freeze for us. We did not know what to do because our students could not travel, our programs could not take place. But we developed this idea. We started talking to our students through Zoom. We send, first of all, let me expand on this a little bit. We send credit to our students in Uganda and Liberia to download Zoom. We taught them how to use Zoom because they were at different locations. We got them to come on Zoom and have conversation with us about what can we do. Eventually, we came again to this conclusion that nobody can decide what you can do with funds right now than a mother in Uganda or in Liberia. So we launched this campaign called the Roots Africa 2020 campaign, where we are sending $20 cash, no strings attached, to a farming family in Uganda or Liberia, so that they can decide what is best for them. Right now, we've raised over $8,000 and counting. We hope to get to 20,000, so that we'll give $20 to 1,000 farmers in Uganda and Liberia. So those are just some of the ways in which Roots Africa is like targeting COVID-19 while looking at the long-term prospect of like, how do we innovate within the agricultural field? Thank you.
Coming to you, Ms. Ruth Asimwe, what do you think that how interested are youths today to leap into any kind of entrepreneurship, like what Mr. Nafor was talking about? In your country, Uganda, what do you think? How many youth would be interested in grabbing this kind of opportunity and getting associated into agrarian sector, maybe into agriculture extension or any other related, sector? Or you think youth are still, they are confined in the traditional mindset of looking for a traditional job in the country? Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. So specifically for Uganda, but then also maybe for other countries where we work across the East African community, I should say that youth have the interest. They are interested in bettering themselves, but then also they have an interest in enterprise. So for now, the issues that are barring them are mainly structural, like a colleague of mine have said, issues to do with capital. So you find that someone is interested, but they do not have the capital. And then sometimes it's about taxes for you to be able to operate a business. That's why I find that most times that businesses start and then they don't make it to their first year because of those structural issues around capital, around taxes, and then also the enabling environment. So, but if we tackle those structural issues and create an enabling environment, for example, that young people can be able then young people can be able to tap into that. And when we're talking about enabling environment, I'm talking about policy. What policies are there that can really enable young people in this to better themselves in entrepreneurship? We are talking about cross-border businesses. How can a young person in Uganda be able to sell to a young person in South Sudan, in Rwanda, in Zambia, in Tanzania, and even across? And with COVID-19, there is really a very big opportunity with Africa intra-trade within Africa as a continent. How can we really be able to take advantage of that? So as you lead right now, we are doing a survey, a study on young people's lives and how COVID-19 has disrupted their lives, and we're going to be launching that on the 28th of May, the results of that study, and encourage everyone to be part of that. But in that launch, we are going to be sharing opportunities as well, how young people can be able to come up and work together moving forward, because the effects are going to linger around for a year or two and even more. And I think the last point that I would really talk about in terms of entrepreneurship, I think it will get us back to agriculture. Right now, young people have discovered that actually agriculture really matters. They're starting now to run away from their white collar jobs. And not just are they running away, the white collar jobs are no longer accessible. In the US alone, they have lost over 24 million jobs. So for us, Africa here, it is worse. In Uganda, young people have been cut off in terms of their salaries. Others are not working anymore. So they have this interest in agriculture. But even as we are going into agriculture, what does that mean for us in terms of agriculture extension services? Also in terms of inputs so that we can better ourselves in agriculture. And also in terms of, we are looking at the government, what programs do they have for skilling, for youth skilling and agricultural extension programs that can really be extended to young people so that they can better themselves in that and create a better livelihood for themselves moving forward.
Great. So youth is exploring new potentialities in agriculture, maybe in agriculture extension through the use of technology. And I think in a post-COVID world, when there will be so much, unemployment, where there will be economic challenges, I think agrarian sector provides a more credible and a very strong basis for looking for new employment opportunities. To put things in perspective, according to a report in 2019, the kind of venture capital that came into African startups ranges from 500 million to $2 billion. So I think that's a huge amount that is coming in Africa. in the startup sector. I think in the next decade, it's going to provide altogether new set of opportunities for youth there. Now, shifting from the economic opportunities to political opportunities for youth. On one hand, we have the youngest population there in Africa, and also we have the oldest leaders in Africa. The average age of an African leader is 62 or 63, while an average age of a young African population is 15 to 24 years. So what kind of political changes do you envisage in the coming years? And do you think that there will be more opportunities for political participation of youth in Africa? Ruth, particularly to you, because I think you have been supporting a lot of youngsters in getting them into Ugandan parliament before the next election that I read somewhere. So how you are supporting those youth, and do you think, all of you, do you think there will be more avenues for youth for political participation in the coming years? As the economy changes, as the culture changes, as the whole perspective towards youth changes in Africa? Maybe we can start with Mr. Namdi.
Well, I'll just want to, because now I think this is a field that's very, very interesting. I don't know, I'm not very political, but I think everything which we do has a little bit of politics in it. I'd like to quote the late Kwame Nkrumah, as cited in Amabini, The Political and Social Thoughts of Kwame Nkrumah. It says, human history has been dominated by the quest for bread and human rights. The analysis of human rights in this sense includes the various attempts to lay claim to ways of life of the people of Africa with a distorted representation of the African historical perspective in fields of education, medicine, technology, and even literature to a great extent. Now, what I'm trying to say from here is, if you see all that is happening in Africa since, pre and post colonization and independence, there has been not just the failure of the domestic imperialists. We also reach are those you mentioned that we have in the political settings, people who are so old and so tired, but they don't want to retire. My mom would always call them political dinosaurs. So, and you know what happened to dinosaurs is at some point they got extincted. So I think what we have also as a challenge is the rest of the world not actually standing side by side with us in mutuality and respect. We have people who, as you mentioned, just like the venture capitalists who come in, they just want to benefit because that's the only thing that they're based on, capitalism. They don't care about the environmental or ecological impact of whatever exploration that they are doing. You go to a place called Ogoni Land in Nigeria, where crude oil is being explored. You see that everything about agriculture there is already, the land is already devastated. You cannot even, nothing survives in that land. So I think we need to look at orientating people at the basis of, on the basis of presumption. I think we can start, instead of going into agriculture for commercial purposes alone, we can have people produce what they consume. I mean, in terms of food, you have a little garden in your house. Even at this point when you cannot work, a lot of people don't have jobs. They could just, if it's tomatoes, if it's vegetables, they can start cultivating. Let's reorientate ourselves. And I think this is where we all have a huge role to play, because only looking at the politicians and those who have the big fundings, we would not come out of this, because greed is something that has eaten up so deep into a lot of people. You are
suggesting, Mr. Namdi, in a way, you are suggesting a mindset change,
which is very important. Very important
to become future leaders of Africa. Coming to you, Mr. Nafor, what's your take on the political participation of youth in Africa in the coming years? We request you to unmute yourself.
Yeah, since Mr. Nyamdi started with a quote, I will also start with a quote. Martin Luther King said, "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice." I do think, yes, these people have stayed in power. Since I was born, I've not seen another president in Cameroon. and it's continuous. But I do have, I'm really, really hopeful. I do believe that there is a brand of young people coming up. Case in point, all of us sitting here on this call, coming up, that would not settle for anything less, that would strive to make sure that the future is bright for them. And they're not, what they're showing us throughout is they're not leaders of tomorrow, they're leaders of today. Look at what happened in Sudan. Look at what is happening even in Cameroon. Look at what is happening all over the African continent. There is a sign that the young people of today, utilizing technologies, utilizing the connection of the world, and seeing that there is a better world out there and they can create that for themselves. Those are signs that we are going to overcome eventually. It's a gradual process that is a lot slower than we would want it to be, but I do believe that we will overcome. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, please go ahead. You were saying something. Go ahead.
I wanted to touch on one of the points that Ruth brought up. I'm sorry, I'm taking us back about innovation. I do think one of the key things that we cannot forget is the aspect of we need to start small. Africans always think if you need to start a business, you need $1 million, you need 1 million Ugandan shilling or 1 million francs CFA in order to start a business. There is this simple concept of MVP, the minimum viable product, or prototypes. You could almost test your idea without going out and spending millions of dollars, and just understanding who your customers are and who you are serving. In my philosophy in entrepreneurship is, as long as there's a problem, you can be a business, you can be in business to solve that problem. As long as you understand your customers, you will provide the best solution possible, no matter what anybody says. So you understanding your customers, starting small, is the best way to launch a venture, whether in agriculture, whether in the IT field. Start small. Thank you.
I think that's a fantastic, business idea shared by Mr. Nafor. Coming to you, Hanan, what do you think? How interested is youth in changing the political landscape of their own countries in Africa?
Lead me back to Egypt again. After revolution, we already changed a lot of things. Actually, to be honest, most of the leaders nowadays is youth, beyond maximum 45 years. Even the power of the youth nowadays inside the country is a little bit stronger than before. I don't know, maybe because after revolution it changes the blood in our country, and the most of people start being involved, especially who interesting to be in political, because it's not all of the youth like interesting in that stuff, but who is interesting seriously is take advantage to be in the top in really rural areas. Like if you go to the parliament in Egypt, you find that 80% or 70% of them is youth also. So I don't know, but I'm not saying in Egypt we don't have a lot of challenges. We have a huge number of challenges because the number of unemployment is high. The economy is affected even after COVID-19, and during the revolution time it also affected. But it's a little bit, the technology is increasing in our country. It's a little bit not even international. Some entrepreneurs starting going on. Even some small and young youth start some including business for technology and recycling, and even using some resources, natural resources, to make a business. So they really have a good example in our country. But I think, as our friends say, we need to start easy, start slow, start with a small amount, and we continue. But trust me, we have the ability to do. I'm sure that.
Yes. So the youth in Africa has the ability to do it. Coming to you, Ms. Ruth, why do you want to see more youngsters in the parliament? And what are you doing to make sure that it happens in the coming years?
Yes, so it's true. I'm working on sending 50 young people to parliament ahead of the Uganda 2021 election. And the reason why I'm thinking of that is that when you look at the politics of our country, but also politics of Africa in general, you find that currently, right now, there is a lot of politics has been commercialized. And young people do not have the finances to go in for elective politics because it's highly commercial. If you look at the registration fees and then that whole length during elections, the amount that people put in, young people cannot afford it. But then also, apart from the commercialization of politics, there is a lot of patronage. And then the political participation for young people is limited to political parties, specifically the youth wing. So if they're part of the youth wing or the women's league, and then that's why they are participating. But beyond that, there is not so much of opportunities. And maybe when you come to the different countries, for those that have national youth councils, I think there has been space for young people to participate there at a national youth council level. For the East African community, in South Sudan and Tanzania that do not have national youth councils, and we're really pushing that they do have, because they have been a really good voice for political participation. And then some countries, of course, for us in Uganda, we have youth MPs, and it's surprising to find that the youth who are majority in parliament, we are among the minority groups. So we have 5 people representing the minority groups that are the youth MPs, but who are doing actually a good job. And I think we can push more for that, but then also for other positions. Now, what we are doing in terms of political participation, I want to limit to it as an individual, talk about what we are doing as a ULEAD, because political participation is one of the key things that we look at. Can we have a youth in politics? So we started with having a political leaders forum, and we had that last year. So with the political leaders forum, we are showing that we have political leaders who are talking to other young people on how their experiences are, how they join politics, and how young people can be inspired to join as well. And then we have political leaders who are mentoring. We have some in Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi that we have identified, and they're really mentoring these other young people that do want to join politics so that they can be better leaders as well. And then we have run campaigns on how we can do politics on a minimum budget. Last year, we had one of the political leaders really talk to young people, how can they be able to run an election on a minimum budget. And then also we are pushing for the implementation of the African Charter of Democracy, Elections and Governance, because it really has some very good provisions for young, that can create a good enabling environment for young people to join politics. And also we are also pushing for young people to be at the East African Legislative Assembly. And beyond that, we do capacity building for youth. And what has really come out of that is we have someone who's going to run for president in Uganda, a young person, as a result of our initiatives as ULEAD. And then Burundi is going for elections actually tomorrow. Burundi has their elections. Tanzania is going for the elections in August. Uganda are going for elections in 2021, and then we have Kenya going for elections in 2022. So we are really working with our partners, organizations in those different countries to ensure that young people are joining a part of these conversations, but then also looking out for young people and empowering them. We have a leadership peer review program that we are starting, and many other innovations that I can't talk about in detail right now, but just to ensure that young people are empowered, because political participation is their right. And I know that they make better leaders with the innovations and flexibility and the energies that they have. They can make better leaders for our nations.
Of course, there is no doubt youth will become a better leader. They'll prove, they'll have better leadership qualities, and I think it will change the entire future of African continent also. So that brings me to the end of this program, and I would also end with a piece of information I got from Africa Youth Survey 2020. It echoes the same sentiments which we discussed today during our conversation. The survey highlighted that there is a trend of Afro-optimism among young people in Africa, driven by a strong sense of individual responsibility, entrepreneurship, and confidence in an African identity. So I think that leaves us with a very optimistic, remark. And we look forward to a future in Africa where the countries will be led by young leaders who have a bigger vision for Africa, for saving its natural landscape, for saving its environment, judiciously utilizing its skill set, investing in human capital, and making Africa what it deserves to be a prosperous continent in the coming years. So thank you so much, Mr. Cedric Nawford. Thank you so much, Ruth Asimwe. Thank you so much, Hanan. Thank you, Iziogu, for joining us today in this wonderful discussion. Mr. Namdi, you want to say something?
Yeah. Please, I just
your
want
last
also,
words. Please.
Yeah, I just want also to pass a message to the elders. I mean, the old leadership we have. We are not coming to remove you completely from the system. We are just restructuring, whereby you take advisory positions and we take the executive role. So don't be scared of us. Just put us in the system for sustainability.
That's
Yeah,
a great message.
so the elders can give their advice, sit back and relax, and the younger ones can drive the countries to newer heights.
Exactly.
So thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us today in this wonderful discussion. We'll be back again with a new episode of Africa Talks next week. Good day and goodbye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. See you guys.